There is no business today where you cannot deploy this technology and create a return on investment. There just isn't one. Welcome to the Implement AI podcast, the podcast where we explore the impact of AI on your business. I'm Piers Linney, and alongside my co-host and co-founder of Implement AI, Dr. Aalok Shukla, we cover the real-world applications and impact of how AI can be practically applied to drive growth and efficiency in your organization. We cut through the jargon to focus on actionable strategies and use cases to highlight the transformational power of AI. Let's dive into today's conversation. I'm Piers.
I'm Aalok.
So Aalok, you made it to India.
I'm in Mumbai, the center.
So funny. Somebody said to me, enjoy your bank holiday. And I was like, I didn't even know the bank holiday in the UK. So since I was a banker, I've never had bank holidays. I've always been starting businesses. Bank holidays have never mattered. And I was kind of like, oh, it's a bank holiday. So maybe today I'll be quiet. We shall see. So I thought in this podcast, what we're going to do is give a bit of an update and talk about our event, obviously. But also there's some research came out of MIT about the success rate on generative AI projects. And it kind of, Aalok and I were talking about this. And I kind of responded to it on LinkedIn, but I thought it'd be an interesting podcast actually to run through why that might be the case. So we're going to run through that. But let's start with our event. So we're going to mention it a few times because we want to get people there. So this is going to be on the 15th of September. It's in Manchester. So our last two events have been in London. So we're doing it in central Manchester in Spinningfields, if you know it. Although in our London event, people came from Manchester, Ireland, all over the place. So feel free to come up to Manchester if you're down south. And we're going to go through, it's called your future digital workforce. And we're going to talk through what that means, how AI agents, how you can deploy them, what they're capable of, lots of case studies, talk about use cases, and then we'll have a workshop as well. So it's about 12:30 after lunch. We're going to do lunch until about 3:30. So if you're interested in deploying AI agents, which is actually what this podcast is going to be about, we'll see you there. We're also going to have some robots. If you like robots, come along, but I'll keep that a secret until we're there.
To be perfectly honest, if you want your business to be having any chance of like thriving and growing in 2026 and beyond, when all your competitors are going to be actually deploying their digital workforces, you've got to get started now because you're basically, this is the time and there's so much opportunity for the forward-thinking business owners. In fact, a few of our customers are coming to the event, which will be fantastic to catch up with them. So that gives you an opportunity to actually
Yeah, we've had our AI Activate program, which you can see on our website. But since we launched AI OS, it's quite different now because now we can deploy kind of ongoing digital workers, AI agents. And actually, there's one of our customers, this is all arm's length. We don't ask them to do this or we didn't make it up. One of our customers, Sam Turner from Advantos, which we'll give a shout out because he's an avid listener to our podcast. He did a video testimonial on LinkedIn, which was, and these things actually really matter to us. It's amazing to hear a customer, just talk about the value we've added. So let's move on to the LinkedIn post. So this was basically some research by MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in the US. It's quite famous for churning out technology entrepreneurs and sort of experts. And it basically said that this study showed that 90% of generative AI projects, which I guess that's kind of piloting it, rolling it out, trying to use it in business, are failing. And I kind of read that and it struck me that, well, we kind of know why, because we see this a lot and we see a lot of companies that have come to us, talked to us, even done our programs and then gone away and thought, oh, well, we'll do it ourselves or we'll go for the list or we'll try another route. And then 6 months later, they've come back to us and said, well, yeah, we tried that. It didn't work. Can work with us. And I've got to say, Aalok, I mean, you know the stats probably better than I do, that I don't think a single one of our AI projects, if you want to call it that, has failed.
No, I agree. And I'll give you a kind of a funny story about this because there's no historical frame of reference for this type of work, this kind of transformation, this deployment of a digital workforce. Many businesses might try and approach it like a software project and think, what can we actually design or deploy internally or kind of do? And I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if you've heard this one. There's like a man on the street and he's like looking around underneath a lamppost for, And this other guy passing him says, "What are you looking for?" He goes, "I'm looking for my keys." And the guy is saying, "Oh, okay." And he spends an hour looking for him. He goes, "Where were you when you last had the keys?" After an hour of looking underneath the lamppost with the light. He goes, "Oh, I was over there in the car park, but there's no light there. So I'm looking here under the lamppost." And I think sometimes that's like people might approach you, like the developers of the company with good intentions will be like, this is a project I can add AI to. This is something I can actually do. But it isn't actually the item which adds the business value to drive revenue, increase capacity, transform the experience. And because that's actually harder to do. So what we find is that if you build things in the wrong place, despite good intentions, they will fail. So I think we approach things always from, what's the approach for the business? Will it make the boat go faster? What are you trying to do? And I think you have to start there, Piers.
I'm not sure about your story. But it kind of worked. I think some people don't even know they don't even know they're looking for their keys sometimes. In fact, with AI, like, and you made the point actually, if people didn't even know what keys look like, so how the hell do you expect to find them? So one of the things is you said, we're gonna go for, we've got a list of about 17 here, is until you see it, it's very hard to believe it and understand it, right? So the key is to, have a pilot really. There's no other way of saying it. I saw cloud, right, for 15 years, 10 years, and yeah, you had a server in a cupboard at the bottom of the room. I said this before in the podcast, and you had a server in the cloud, right? It kind of did the same thing. You kind of get your head around it. I said it in the last podcast actually as well. You can get your head around digital transformation, having a website, because you can go and look at websites. Very hard to go look at the impact of artificial intelligence. So this podcast, right, is we're going to go through a list of the reasons why we see, and when we think in some cases, I haven't seen all of these examples, these projects that MIT are talking about have failed. And I'm telling you now, there's no reason for them to. So let's go through it. So I've got about 17 there. So let's start with number one, right? So number one, and we've come across this a couple of occasions. We tried to build it internally, right? Now, if you're technical and you can read up on how to create a voice agent or whatever agent it might be, yes, you can build it. We've had hobbyists actually. Someone said, "Oh, I built this. I've seen it." The pro people we know, and say, yeah, it kind of works. The difference is this is all we do, right? We've spent 2 years working with hundreds of companies, hundreds of hours and thousands of calls with agents to develop how our agents work, how to respond to humans, and what the prompt should look like. And I can tell you now, it's about 15 pages, right, of JSON and markup and all sorts of, I won't go into the detail, that's what IP, but it's super complicated. So if you're trying to build it internally, yes, you might be able to build it, but actually, to optimize it and make it work in the way it needs to, you need to have all the insights we've got across hundreds of companies and almost all sectors.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think the way you got to think about it is like to make something basic, like, for example, for it to actually, like, an agent you can speak to, an agent that will reply to your email is one thing. But to make it which has contextual memory, can retain things across different areas, can sustain prompt injection attacks, can actually integrate with other systems and tools, can actually update CRMs and details in parallel, can actually then pass tasks across and securely manage all these different things, and do it repeatedly at scale, requires a lot of different dimensions you need to kind of put in place. And I kind of think about it a bit like, imagine you need to do a construction project and you actually need to start building on top of a mountain. Like, I've seen this when I've been traveling in Asia sometimes. You go to like a place and they're restoring some, like antique relic of a temple, for example. And I see workmen hiking up the mountain with all their tools just to travel to the site and actually start work, basically, right? So if you imagine your AI project is on top of the mountain actually starting the work, by the time most people travel up to the top, they're tired and they may not even have the skill or the energy to actually do the rest of it, basically, right? So in the same way, there's a lot of things that you need to be able to do and put in place for your systems to work and do it securely and to replicate across departments. Because I wrote an article on this where basically many tools are basically like Lego, pipe, bricks, and wiring. And then the point is that, like, if you have to assemble that, okay, you can do it once, but you can't repeat that across departments and pass the best learning. So there's a difference between a small POC and production grade business infrastructure.
Yeah, and it's also, you made a very good point there. I can tell you in India, all these metaphors are flowing there. It's fantastic. So, You made a good point. So our agents, it's not just the agent, right? It sits on a platform, and that platform, agentic memory, that our task engine, the integrations, all those ingredients that we put together into AOS, they're not there for the fun of it because we thought it'd be cool. They're there because that's what we see that companies, organizations need. So you're never going to build all of that. You're going to have, as you said, this sort of almost a star on the Christmas tree, or another one, the cherry on the top of the cake. That's all you're building. We built everything else. So that's number one. Second one is, and this is a common one, I'm sure anyone listening to this has tried this, we're familiar, is you've hired consultants, and we work with some the big consultancies, right? And I know this firsthand. You hire consultants, or it could be a small company, and they can talk the talk. They can deliver fantastic PowerPoints. They can talk about AI, generative AI, the future, what it could do. They can even kind of maybe do a quick sort of pilot, but really, they've got no delivery capability whatsoever. So you end up with talking about, oh, okay, we'll come on to it in a moment, almost like a software development project. So you need people that, yes, they can help you understand the technology, what what it can do, what it's capable of, where it's going, how you could use it in your business, but they need someone that can actually deliver it.
This is a whole new territory. This is a whole new area. And only when you've actually kind of gone deep with workflows in different businesses and actually see what happens. Let me give an example. Imagine you've got a call agent and it calls someone, they say, call me back in 15 minutes. Or imagine, for example, you've got like a scenario where a customer said, hey, I'm going to be ready for this project in 3 months or whatever like that, right? So there's all these actions that need to happen in the future. There's potentially human review that needs to happen. So you're going to need a human in the loop portal. You're going to do different things. Now, unless you've actually seen these things and understood the complications and edge cases around those things, how on earth can you actually architect it? Like it's like explaining every stroke of swimming to do in a pool you've never swam in with obstacles you've never seen and animals inside there you don't even know about, basically, right? Like you can give the general gist of get from here to there, but you cannot actually do that without having gone through all those messy elements essentially within there. So I think in this sort of area, you have to have like, you don't want to be paying for like the learnings. You want to gain the learnings from other people as well, basically.
And also, what you don't want is to have the conversation and be fantastic, let's go. And they look at you and say, wow, okay, I need to stand up a project. And it's going to be, I'm not making this up, in some cases, 500 grand, right? Whereas with us, we just flip a few switches almost and off you go. Well, this is one of your favorites, Alok. Number three, you've relied on, and you wrote an article on this too, a no-code automation platform. And this is where you can take things like NA10s, APMAB, which they kind of work. You can use them to do certain things, but they don't really work for companies that aren't particularly technical. Because all you're really getting is a pile of Lego bricks.
And there's a difference between, let's say, for example, making a automation which is for your personal workflow as an individual. That's one thing, and totally you can use these tools for that. But it's a very different thing to agentify your department or entire business function, for example. I give an example. Like you can make like, I used to like electronics when I was a kid. And I made like a clap switch and it was like, it wouldn't pass a single health and safety inspection and there was live wiring across different things, but it worked. But I couldn't install that in a hotel, for example, right? And then have like clap switches in all the different places because you need to have different technology, different protections, different safeguards, different things. And the other difference is people say, oh, it's like Lego. Well, Lego has instructions and Lego has a final article of what you're trying to get to. In these situations, if you don't even know what guardrails you got to put in, or you don't even know what safety elements or switches or data structure or tool function calling, or, I'll give an example. Any tool you might call, for example, Slack or, Gmail or even like Google Drive, they might have 180 different possible functions, but LLMs can only deal with about 120 to 130. So how do you even describe which ones you want? And at the same time, how do you ensure the right data structure in testing? So I don't mean to labor the point, but like if you don't have an architect and you don't have like, the system that you're going to do in the guardrails, it's like you're the builder, you're the architect, you're the engineer, you're the electrician, and, you're not going to build something industrial at that.
And also, well, we'll come on to it as well. Often you've got out to hire an agency or somebody that's built this beautiful kind of agentic workflow for you. And it does lots of things, there's lots of different agents. And the issue often is that, well, when it stops working, which it will, well, then what? Do you go and get them back in? Who fixes it? And if you've got a problem, a hallucination even, at the top of that sort of waterfall of workflow, it's going to cascade through the whole thing. So you've got to be really careful about just cobbling together. And these companies are growing really quickly. I was reading a thing the other day, Aalok, that I think it was Cursor, these lovables, these big companies, fantastic, but they've got negative gross profit margins. It's costing them more to access the AI models than they're charging the customers. So you got to think about that as well. And then next one, number 4. So this is the big one actually. So and this is kind of linked to the previous one. They've started with the technology, generative AI. It's cool. I want an agent to do this, not the use case. And all we do is try and connect a use case with the technology. It's the other way around.
No, I completely agree. And also in our early days, like we built some very interesting agents. For example, we built an agent which was like a live coach. When someone was in an interview or a consultation, it would be showing you what questions to ask dynamically and suggesting what's going on. And many people liked it. But in the reality, what actually happened is people just asked me, Alok, this is fantastic. But can we skip the human and just have the agent do the talking and ask the questions directly, basically? Because they didn't want to pay twice, if you understand, for the human plus the AI as well, basically, right? So I think you have to start with the use case and what's the objective? What's the business case? How are you driving revenue? How are you increasing capacity? How are you transforming the experience in a measurable way to increase LTV, lifetime value? You have to start there because without that, there isn't the bandwidth for people to manage things or even look at things in the business, basically.
Yeah, the next one. So this is the one I talk about quite a lot is you haven't involved the people that actually do the work, right? So you can sit in your board or your senior leadership or you might even have a working group talking about artificial intelligence and new technology, and you decide, you know what, we should go and look at this, which might be correct. But we always say if you have a working group, you want it to be horizontal, so senior leadership across departments, but also you want it to be vertical. So actually, yes, it might include the manager, the director, whatever the job titles are, but you want it to include the most junior people in your business as well, because they're the ones that are going to say to you, "Did you know I spend 2 hours a day doing this mundane, repetitive nonsense?" And the response might be, "No, I didn't." So unless you've got that kind of matrix approach to the organization to extract the kind of the insights you need from it, it's going to be very hard to find the real automation opportunities that are going to add some value.
I'll let you in on a little secret. What makes AI so effective in businesses and so powerful is context around the problem, context around the customer, context around the edge cases and how you handle things. This is, I mean, in AI, they call it context engineering. This is actually the business logic we've built into our system, which actually into our AIOS, which allows you to actually capture all those different bits. But the thing is, that person on the front desk that knows this customer is always on a 10% discount, this customer from this country is always at this rate, these people in this situation always require that. Now, you need to capture all that because if they leave your company, you're kind of screwed, basically, right? And if all that is captured into your AI system, all of that gives the intelligence to the workflows, which then means every time the models get smarter, your system gets better. But the thing is, without all of that context built in, captured, and optimized from the people that actually do the work, you cannot build like a best in class system for your industry, basically.
Right, number 6. So this is a common one. I mentioned it at the outset. It's been treated like another software development project, right? Let me be really clear about this. This is not another software development project. This is not a project, actually. This is it's going to be, over time, as the technology improves, a fundamental change, a transformation in terms of how you operate a business from soup to nuts permanently. And it's never going to end because the technology is going to get better all the time. And luckily for you, we update our agents for you. You don't have to. But that's a key point, Alok, isn't it?
I think what you have to remember is that like most software development within a business is limited to their ERP or their enterprise software or maybe some custom tools they built inside or their website basically. But the opportunities for generative AI in your business are beyond the browser or beyond your kind of like habitual elements basically, which is where your developers normally work. And there are very few developers that have a C-suite authority or have the overview or even the mandate to look at like how could we transform other departments because they're great at what they do, but they don't understand the frictions within sales or different areas and different stuff like this, basically, right? So this is not a software, development project to add a bit of software to existing code. This is going where no code has been there before, and it requires using technology in different ways. So you need to have like both the authority and also the vision to be able to do this.
I think also I'm gonna throw on your metaphors. It's like it's like paving. So you can imagine that all tiles, right? They're often the tiles are the big software projects, right? And then you're trying to have all the ground, the bits in the middle is what you kind of, is kind of what process does. Difference with AI is increasingly the bits in the middle are really important. And that's what connects things together. And it can automate all of that. But increasingly, it can automate what the tiles or the bricks do as well. So it kind of almost like spreads. So you've got to think about is just approaching it as a project. People say to us, we've heard this, right, we've got an AI, or what they say, an AI implementation project for the whole business, right? I'm telling you now, that's doomed to failure. Yeah. Pick a use case, pick three, we say, tops, and start there. Let people see it, show the ROI, show the value, all the lights go on. Oh, okay, we can automate all the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. But on that journey, there comes a point where we always say, you've got to start thinking about, well, actually, let's not just keep tweaking around the edges. Well, let's keep doing that. But what does AI first look like? Where are we trying to head to? That's the holy grail. That is not a software development project. Right, next one, number 7. Another big one. I like one of your favorites. They've failed to use existing data streams, right? It's like, oh, we're going metaphor crazy in this podcast. It's like you're mining, right? And there's a massive pile of gold sitting right in front of you. And you're kind of like, oh, okay. I'll tell you what, though, let's go and dig a new hole over here, see if we can find some gold. It's just no need. Your data, your balance gave you a corner shop, whether you've got a website, e-commerce, whether you've got a big complicated ERP system. An obvious one I love, which I'll let you talk about, is voice. The value, the gold in your data, that voice, is go and mine that and use AI to leverage it.
Exactly. Like in 2025, like the number of businesses I've spoken to that don't record their phone calls, as an example, right? Or have meetings and don't record their meetings, but that's like a kind of secondary thing, but don't record their phone calls. I'm still shocked.
But just on that, so the reason it, I use them in telecoms is unless you've got a regulatory reason or you really do use them in your kind of support and training, it was a cost. And it's like, why would I do it? But now there's a clear reason why you do it. So the point is, if you've got it, you should be using it. If you haven't got it, you should be setting it up.
No, I agree. I think like in 2023, our first thing we were always saying it like all of our like presentations was record everything, right? But obviously, like I've always thought that like have the data stored. At some point, you'll find a way to like leverage it. Even now, there's stuff that if you record, you can gain greater insights from in the future that you than you can now as the models get better. So I've always thought you want to have all the data and then you can, get the intelligence out of it. But like I said, I'm still shocked at like number of businesses that don't record their calls and then can't get those insights. And the thing is, there's so much value in them. I mean, like some businesses we've seen, like, several £100,000 worth of opportunities within 2 months from phone recordings, which they can be reactivated, or, cross sell opportunities which were detected, or, other ones where it's like in terms of like creating the pipeline literally for 2 months from now with all the opportunities which are going to be there. And like, so that these data streams, such as all of your emails, and you can have analysts which could go through those in the past 2 years across your entire department and spot all those missed opportunities. These data streams are the opportunity. See, you want to basically have AI leveraged on top of your data streams in contextually relevant ways to actually unlock the value in your business. Like that's the game, basically, right? Like, and the more you can capture, the more you can benefit, basically.
Yeah, and one of my favorite our favorite slides is it's the soldier when they're looking across a field and someone's looking back at you. It's a spectral vision, infrared vision, night vision, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's your predator vision. Yeah, you can look at something and go, actually, and data you've already got, right? This is not new data, not going digging a new hole. It's look at the pile of data you've already got and just extracting value from it. I'm telling you now, if you've got a high value service and you've got recorded phone calls, I'm telling you now, you can generate hundreds of thousands of pounds of new revenue almost immediately just by analyzing it. Anyway, won't dwell on that one too much. Number 8, so this is another big one as well, is you've got to an agency or you've got a development software development project and you build something, but then what? What if we want another one or slightly different one? It's not repeatable. So we build the AIOS so it can be highly configurable but repeatable, not something you've got to stand up and tweak every time you want to use it, deploy it either horizontally or vertically, like lots of the same agent or lots of different agents that can all communicate, work together, and collaborate, is you want something that can be repeated. Otherwise, the ROI is going to be killed.
Exactly, because otherwise you've got a CapEx cost every single time you want to start, basically, right? You cannot leverage anything. Also, all the knowledge and all the insights and all the different details cannot be replicated across department or across location. You don't have any of those benefits, and you don't have internal data stores within there. So, and then also as the technology evolves, how is that being upgraded? Our systems are continually upgraded. So the point there is like, if you haven't thought it through, you're going to get stuck behind, basically, right? And also the thing is, if you build things for the world which exists now, you're missing out on what they call future compatibility. Because, like, for example, if you're building things for a world that the agents are going to be better and the models will be better, you will always benefit, basically, which is what we always do. But like, you have to know what you're doing in this fast moving world.
Right. So, if you don't know us, we implement AI. We implement AI, and we've just built our platform, the AI OS. There's a lot of information on our website. Go to our resource center. We've got white papers, demos, overviews, just a lot of it. We also share a lot of content on LinkedIn as well. I kind of do thought leadership. Alex got a lot of real practical like content. Literally, if you read it and you use it and implement it, it's going to change things immediately. We're doing our event in Manchester. So this is your future digital workforce event. It's our third event. They're very successful. They had a lot of value. We've got people coming who are customers. We've got prospects coming as well. We've got potential partners coming as well, because we are going to build a reseller version of our business too. So if you can get to Manchester on the 15th of September, it's 12:30 till 3:30. We shall see you there. And we've got some of our digital friends will be turning up as well. If you like the podcast, I know lots of you do because you tell us and you share it on LinkedIn. Please leave a review. Like, go and do it right now. I'll stop. Right, go and do a review. So go and do the review, right? It really helps us. I think we're number, is it 17 or 11? Depends what week it is, in UK Apple Podcasting Management.
Yeah, it was 11. It was fantastic.
Yeah, so we're getting there.
Please do write a review on Apple Podcasts if you can, and do share it. We appreciate it.
We've got about the same number again. The number 9, my favorite. You build something, and it's like a single agent. It's just there's one thing. It's a single task. It's you know a vertical AI, or you've gone and bought one, an AI SDR, an AI PA, whatever it might be, which is fine. But it's like we think of AI, our AI as digital workers, right? It's like hiring a human that could only do one thing and can't talk to anybody. They might get some work done, but they're not going to last either. Let's face it.
You want to have, like, digital workers and multiple ones of them, like starting with one, scaling to 50 or 100 plus, like, and then you want to make sure you got a system where it kind of like works with you and incentivizes you to actually deploy more, basically, right? So generally speaking, if you're using some of these single task AI agents, you're paying, a subscription per month per agent. And then on top of that, they can only do one thing. So you then need to have like 10 different systems, which will not talk to each other and are all limited in a certain way. And you basically twist your arm and your body trying to like make it work for you, but that's not what you want. With our AIOS, it doesn't matter whether you've got one agent or you've got 100 plus agents. It doesn't cost you more per month from the subscription perspective, basically, right? You can add more yourself, and we also manage and do them for you, basically, right? But the point there is, like, we thought this through. You want to have the scalability and the compatibility to be able to actually roll them across departments, basically.
Yeah, you don't want agents that. So we have agents that are access to integrations. They can access these different tools, because you're going to limit yourself. One of my pet hates is what I call SaaS creep. So you've all got all these applications, right? And I'm telling you, anyone listening to this who's got a business, if you went away now and did an audit of all the software you use and all the software you're paying for, there's going to be a gap, right? And that's kind of SaaS. And you have all these things, and you try and cobble it together using maybe N8N and Zapier, which is fine. But in AI, what you don't want, as Aalok said, is to have lots of SaaS with AI in it and lots of individual agents, and none of it works together or talks or can collaborate or communicate or has shared memory. It's just going to slow you down. So think about that. Try and have digital workers that can work together and do more than one thing. Right, next one. This is one where we live in a kind of AI bubble, right? So I see this a lot on, say, YouTube, for example. AI agencies, AI developers. So you don't want, this is going back to the consulting point as well. You don't want someone who's an agency, it's a software development project, a consultancy that's going to sell you the dream and then disappear over the horizon and leave you carrying this baby essentially. But it's quite a complicated one and it evolves very, very quickly. The point I made on LinkedIn is that you want an AI partner, not an AI agency, someone that's going to work with you over time. So we, for example, our approach, not again, not because we thought it was cool, is fully managed because we realize that most companies just don't have the capability, the skills, or the know-how, or even the inclination, actually, to be quite frank, to manage this technology. So we do it for them.
One thing that I found quite fascinating is when we started this, my focus was on what I call real world businesses or everyday businesses, basically, which is basically like, SMEs that operate in the real world, move physical stuff, sell physical things, or even, even digital services, but, make the economy, power the economy in a real way, basically, right? And so kind of thought to myself, I won't target tech companies basically because I thought they'll just build stuff themselves. But having spoken to several tech companies in the last week or so, I realized actually that they have massive gaps and also they actually want a best in class solution. They don't want to spend all the budget and all the capex to develop something themselves, maintain it themselves. It costs too much basically to be able to like do all of that. And so the whole point there again is if you use an agency where you don't even have the expertise and people potentially are just discovering things for you, you're going to basically be paying very expensive, high costs for things which are not going to be updated or scaled in the future for you.
You're sold this dream. It looks cool. Oh, we can do this. We can do that. Look at it. And there's lots of different agents doing lots of different things. Great as a project, something to show your kids, but something that's actually going to work in production and get something done. And don't forget the probabilistic as well. Sometimes with AIs, you'll say it's a bit like my dog. Go and do this. It'll look at you and say, "Well, no." What? Sorry. So it's kind of like, well, so how do you make sure it does it? Because they're not deterministic. So there's things like that you need to really understand, actually. Right, next one. So yeah, you might have an agentic solution, right? But then these companies, this is again why projects fail. They haven't got the skills to manage it, upgrade it, and optimize it. So this is not like a SaaS, and they might get upgraded over time, where you just deploy it and off it goes, does its thing, and you can walk away, get on with your life, and it carries on doing what it's doing. That is not the case because they're evolving all the time. I mean, we live in the sort of AI bubble, and it is tiring. It's tiring, isn't it? Just looking at things or dating, Aalok and the team are got to go off to San Francisco and spend time at conferences to make sure we're up to date. That's what we do, so you don't have to.
Exactly, and I think that the whole point is that, like, there's many things that happen, like, as new models get pushed through, then you have to update how your prompt engineering is, right? Then you also have to also, like, increase the amount of, capacity that your, virtual machines have. Then you also then have to, like, think about, okay, as new APIs come about or as new systems come about, does the tool calling structure need to change or do we need to change something else? Like, all these things need continual updating, and I have to say there's a lot of work which is needed to keep things just working as if nothing was done to it, if that makes sense, basically, right? And there's a lot of work that goes into the actual customer experience and the user experience design, which may not be obvious, but it's actually a lot of like tools under the hood. I'll give you an example. There's one use case where it's doing a contract confirmation, which is actually like somebody reading out their address, their name, what they've actually ordered, all that kind of stuff. Now, because people don't speak clearly, because people can misspell, because people can actually like, say things in the wrong order, you have to give the AI the guidance about all those edge cases within that. So that actually works out to be like 2 pages of prompts to handle syntax issues and different stuff like this. But in the customer's experience, it's seamless basically. But without that, it can be that broken thing of like, sorry, can you repeat? Or this kind of stuff. Like, and then people think, oh, it doesn't work, if that makes sense. So it can work, but you just need the skills to do that, basically.
Right, next one. You didn't take stakeholders with you, and by stakeholders I mean your colleagues, your team, your board, your senior leadership, your investors, all stakeholders. And we've seen all of these, haven't we? We've seen not invented here syndrome from senior leadership. We've seen private equity investors that have taken this to companies they own, and the CEOs kind of like, well, sorry, not invented here syndrome. We've seen teams to lower down the business they will have this inflicted upon us because the experience is these endless software IT projects that are kind of inflicted upon people and they don't really work out. This is different, okay? I'm writing an article. I'll try and get it done by the end of the bank holiday weekend. I didn't know existed. And it's about saying that there's like an alien spaceship approaching Earth, and we all know it's coming with this new intelligence on it, and we're all just carrying on having picnics and going walking the dog. When in reality, everyone would freak out and be sitting in meetings all day working out what we're going to do. This new technology is arriving. How are we going to use it? And that's almost what it should be. You need everyone involved, again, horizontally, vertically, like we said, involve everybody and take them with you on a journey. And that's why pilots really work and what we do at AI Activate, because people can then see it at the right pace for your business, in the right use case for your business, could be picked them quite carefully. And people see the power of it and they stop worrying about, is it going to take their job? Some cases there could be a conflict there, let's just be honest about it. But in most cases it's, oh, okay, it can help me get this done. It's augmentation, not replacement. And once they see that, all the lights go on, don't they? And then suddenly it's kind of like, it's almost it's like a rush to implement it in more places.
No, I agree. And once people get it, so I think the key thing comes from mindset, right? The senior leadership has to have that mindset of like, and the businesses that are led by the original founders, they are the ones most forward thinking because they the ones that created it from nothing. They're used to uncertainty and all that kind of stuff. But the ones where it's almost like professional management and they're just trying to maintain things as it was before, that can be a bit of a challenge essentially because different incentives, different horizons, different things like this. But you have to bring everyone on board because otherwise it's going to be a problem. And I've seen it all the ways.
Pick use cases where there's no ROI or it's unclear. So we always say, and you'll see from a lot of our articles, that you've got this kind of PR frontier, there's noise about AI, what it can do, what it's going to do in the future. You've got the technological frontier, which is jagged because it depends on how you can use it, where you can deploy it in different organizations. But you kind of need to know about that because very quickly that becomes, think of video, how that's moving quickly, that becomes the operational frontier. We always say you want to play really to make this really work in the operational box, which is this technology works, it's reliable, it's got a measurable ROI and it's meaningful as well. It's a decent size ROI too. And that's where you want to play. So you've got to pick use cases where you can actually measure the results and see them, because that's where you're going to take everyone with you on that journey.
No, I agree. And to be honest, right, like we have a filter. So I've had many consultations with potential clients and I've actually said to them, this is not a use case, or this is not going to actually turn into like a scalable thing because they've got some systems which are basically incompatible with where they're going to go 2 stages down. And I'm saying you need to think about replacing that or looking at something or wait until the technology can do this at a more effective price because, stitching everything together with computer use agents, it's not going to be practical based on some of those database systems you've got. So actually here, what I'm happy about is our system is basically, I always say to people very transparently, our job and our goal is to create digital workers for you that are, some of the best workers you've ever had, where basically they're so cost effective, you want them to keep working because if they're not working for you, you will fire them basically, right? And I don't want unemployed agents basically, right? So we have a filter built in because we're trying to like literally partner with them to actually have it, working and growing with them. But, maybe some organizations don't have that.
Well, that's where you're, like I said before, you want an AI partner, not an AI agency. You want someone that can deploy it, not just a consultancy, because we have got a vested interest, let's face it, in making sure that they work for you. It's like having workers with 0 hour contracts, right? Because apart from our basic subscription, unless you use them, they kind of use credits. Unless they're working, you're not paying for them, right? Which doesn't help you, doesn't help us. So that's really quite important. My next one, is one of my favorites, is again, going back to agencies and consultancies, you've built this incredibly complex, clever, but fragile, agentic monster where you've got lots of different aid, like marketing is a great example, isn't it? Well, it's going to do copy, it's going to create an image, it might create a video, it's going to put it all together into a post, it's going to write a newsletter, and it's going to send it out. That is going to end badly. It's just too complicated. There's too much going on. Now, the technology will get there, right? Any kind of agents doing different things, but you've got to think about something that it's almost linear. You can understand it, you can see it. Again, it's deliverable, it's measurable, and it's meaningful. That's the key to it. And you know it's going to work, and you can test it and see it work, and know you can continue working and not just break for some reason you don't understand.
Yeah, you have to have observability built into the system, and you basically also have to have human in the loop elements because people need to be able to review things, approve it, or change it. Because if you've got 8 stages, and let's just say each stage introduces a small amount of error or noise, let's call it that, right? At the end, you have less signal and lots of noise. But if you had at each point a human review portal or different details or systems, and you could observe and check it and then evaluate it, or maybe have different models for different bits, then you can kind of like, iterate and actually like have it work in a way that needs to be. But if you try and build something and they say, oh, it does all these things, I'm sorry, it's just not going to do that basically. And it's just going to, and the output's going to be very average basically, right? So I think that's the key.
if you get an output. All right, next one. I should have put this one last actually, but this is quite a big one. So there's no roadmap to becoming AI first. Okay, now I kind of mentioned it earlier, but just get your head around this. Yes, you could automate existing processes, you can automate workflows. Often, what we find is we've got to say to our customers, agentify is a word that Aalok's invented, as I quite like. Often say to our customers, yeah, you're gonna have to reinvent your workflow, your process. So what happens all the time, and we can go into examples, can't we? Is we'll we'll have agents working and the velocity or the capacity just goes through the roof. And the issue then is the next layer down where they've got human workers, they just can't cope with it. So you've got to do something there as well. You've got to change things. But the point is, yes, automate what you do currently and keep automating these processes. But you have to, if you want to win in the long run, have a view of if we were to start this business again, what would it look like AI first? And again, as Alok said, not AI first based on today's AI first based on where it's probably going to go within a sort of a sensible time frame. And I'm not talking about AGI or ASI, just better generative AI knowing where it's going to go, what should our business look like AI first? And that's where you want to aim for because they're going to be the winners. And you've got to remember all your new competition they're setting up today, that's what they look like. And you've got to be able to compete with them.
So, like I always say, that within the next 3 to 5 years is the window, the time horizon where you want to be the industry leader, the sector leader in your industry, which is the most AI first. Because obviously that's opportunities for like acquisition, for different types of like exits, having commanding a premium, acquiring your competitors, all that kind of stuff. After 5 years, who knows, basically, right? But within that time period, there is a definite game to be played and won, essentially, right, in this space. Now, the point here is that like you need to think AI first. Like you need to think from first principles. Like what would that look like? And then how could that be? And it might be that like you run two businesses in parallel. You run Today Co. and Tomorrow Co is being created. And Tomorrow Co is basically an AI first department where it actually handles everything a particular way. And your Today Co is like looking after things a particular way. Because what's going to happen is if you try and bolt AI into some of your systems, you're going to be limited by the current bottlenecks and issues you've got. And what we found is that when you've got AI, which is like, for example, AI agents, where it's the worker and the software together, you can approach things very differently than if you've got a person sitting on top of a SaaS, basically, right? So, not to belabor the point.
Let's go on to the next one, which is this point. Otherwise, we're going to cover it. So the next point is don't just adapt your current workflows, right? You've got to think about, well, do adapt them, but adapt them to deal with this massively increased velocity and capacity. And calls are a great example, aren't they?
Absolutely. So here, this is the whole point, is that like if you're building AI first and if you want to adapt to AI velocity, like, one AI agent or a team of AI agents can like replace or do the call volume of 50 or 100 people. You can't get your brain around it. Like it can do in 1 hour, 10 hours worth of calls potentially, right? Like how do you get your brain around the capacity of that, right? And if for example, per 1,000 calls, you discover 50 opportunities, or per 1,000 research sessions, a computer use agent discovers 50 property investments for you. And then if you can scale that to 10,000, you can have 500 property investment opportunities a day. How does that affect your capital allocation and all the different elements like that, within there basically, right? So those are the different bits.
Yeah, so it's really important. And my favorite customer story, and they might be listening, ECW, is where we had a pilot running and they called us, said, can you stop the AI? And we said, well, wow, what's wrong? We were, quite flustered. And they said, because we've got too many leads. And I'm going to use that story as a AI, that acts. I love it. And he said, and that's the point is, well, it just changes your growth potential, actually. And how do you deal with it? So it's actually quite important. So you've got to adapt. You can't just take your current business add AI and expect your current business, the way it works, to stay the same, because it isn't going to. Right, last one is, okay, so you may have a project going, whatever you want to call it, a pilot, some software development project, but then what? So, that's a moment in time. It's a point on an exponential curve. Then what happens? So all we do all day is look at our agents, what they're capable of. We look at the technology. We look at the technological frontier, what we call the operational frontier, what works, what's better, what should we deploy. We're kind of technology agnostic, aren't we, really? We're orchestration, making it all work together, and then implementation, how to make it actually work in your business. That's what we focus on. If Model X suddenly drops the ball, we'll use Model Y. That's what we do. So you've got to be able to go with this tiring, exponential evolution of the underlying technology. 'Cause that's going to change the way your agents work as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Right. So there's quite a long list there. What are the closing takeaways, right? So I think that I don't know what to add to these. So one is, don't just buy any technology, never mind AI, for the sake of buying it, because you think as you have to, because your boss has told you to, or your investors are telling you need to do something. Okay, you need to, don't buy it for the sake of buying tech. You need to implement it because there's a reason to, and there's an ROI. And I'm telling you now, there is no business today, unless it's super, super, super simple, or very, very small and new, because it's all in the founder's head, where you cannot deploy this technology and create a return on investment. There just isn't one, okay? The other one is, don't just chase the hype projects. Don't just chase this technology because it's the latest, coolest thing, right? It's massively powerful, hugely can create huge transformation. We've got to go at it in a systematic way, in the ways that we've talked about. And then really, the last one is it's not really about, this is going to compete with human cognitive labor and physical labor in the longer term. But right now, it's about taking everyone with you to superpower them, right? AIs can do things humans can't do. So they're not competing with humans because they can't do it. And then we always use this framework, velocity, sort of value and variability. And humans are good at certain jobs. AIs are not good at that yet, and won't be for a long time. AIs are good at other things like data, and everything in the middle is augmenting humans. Now, as the AIs get better, they can be augmented in different ways. They can do more things, but it's still augmenting humans. So you want to deploy superpower digital workers that are going to superpower your employees. Anything to add, Aalok?
No, I completely agree.
Aalok's getting told off now. That's why he's agreeing, because he needs to go. He's off out. So we're going to end there, right? I guess these messages are looking at it from behind the camera. So a long list there, right? But honestly mean it. It's really important that this research about generative AI projects failing, I believe it for all of these reasons. And if you follow this podcast and go through it and listen to it again, or make notes, or take the transcript to get AI to make notes, what you should be doing, you will avoid failure. You will avoid wasted time and wasted money. And we built our business around literally dealing with all these issues because we face them all. Right. So that's it for this week. Sign up to our newsletter, the Implement AI newsletter. We'll get that out every 2 weeks after the podcast. Go to our website, go to the Resource Center. Lots of information there, white papers, demos. Do read them. And please, again, if you like the podcast, please leave a review. Not sure where we'll be next time, but thank you for listening or watching, and we'll see you then.
See you then.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Implement AI podcast. If you're interested in learning more about how we can assist you and your business in leveraging AI for growth and efficiency, visit our website at implementai.io. Don't forget to subscribe to the Implement AI podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to stay updated on future episodes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.